Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at DETHWIZARDS, the latest offering from Adam Loper and Ventruela at Snarling Badger Studios. Now this was kindly sent along as a complimentary review copy by Adam, and we're going to dive in today and have a look at this solo, cooperative, or head-to-head skirmish game set in a post-apocalyptic world where, you know, there's just necromancers fighting for power. It's kind of a subversive use your fun bad guy model collection and fight against the good guys. A bit like answering the question, what if Boss Monster was a miniature war game? If you ever played Boss Monster, basically you're playing like an 8-bit video game and you're trying to hunt down and kill as many heroes as possible as opposed to trying to like be the hero and defeat the bad guy. You play the bad guy at the end of the dungeon and you send heroes, or you attract heroes to your dungeon so that you can slay as many as possible. So what do you need to play this game? Well, you need some D10s, some D6s, a good pile of like 10 of each. You need a 22 by 30 gaming surface, so they've kind of gone with the now sort of standard GW skirmish table size. And then you need a bunch of undead minis in various forms. You need someone to represent your death wizard, so either like a cool necromancer, some kind of like evil vampire lord, a giant ghost, whatever you want your bad guy to be, your immortal necromancer, your mum-ra, if you will. And then you need a bunch of hero miniatures to be the suckers that you're fighting against, who will defend the villages, defend the castles, and defend the king against your ravaging horde of shambling undead. And they could be everything from priests, rogues, rangers, paladins, villagers, warriors, wizards, the things you might have in a D&D collection of miniatures already. Some terrain, so some like rocky ruins, some crumbling villages, you know, whatever post-apocalyptic fantasy terrain you want to have. And that's it. Oh, and a measuring device in inches, obviously. So the sort of general principles, of course, are laid out in the first thing here in the glossary terms. It's all pretty standard stuff. Your lair is where you live. Your movement is your movement stat. It uses a 4-stat stack block, and things like your attacks for your magic ability and your physical offense are all done with a dice pool of D10s trying to hit a target number. 1s automatically fail, 10s explode and do double hits. That's pretty much what you need to know. Your core stat block is going to be your movement, your offense, your defense, and your resist. So your defense is like your physical defense, your resist is like your mystical defense. And then your necromantic energy for your necromancer is their life bar and also their casting pool. So they kind of mix how you take damage with your ability to like use your cool powers and stuff. And then for a minion slash hero, they're gonna have another stat which is called durability. It's your hit points that replaces your necromantic energy. You also might have special abilities that you can do during a turn. So skeletons, for instance, they're difficult to damage because they're nothing but bones. So when you get offensively attacked, which means like a physical attack, whatever the damage pool results in, so let's say I have an offense of 5, this skeleton has a defense of 5. I roll my dice pool of 5. Every 5 plus is going to be a hit, which does a point of damage. You would take that total damage pool and reduce it by 1. And that's it. Core stat block's nice and simple. And then you go along to building your actual necromancer. So one thing I will praise Vince for, he's definitely gotten the assignment that the best way to lay out almost any rulebook, and this has been something that's been kind of turned into an industry standard over the last like 10 years, is to do it temporally. Start with the thing you're going to do first. So collect your models, then how do you put them on the table, then how do you play a game. A lot of games that get written in the last like 10 years by bigger companies tend to be like, they're not process driven, they're not temporally done as what you would do in order as the player. They're more done in the point of view of like, no, here's a tech manual on how you resolve all of the structures of the game, and they try and get you to absorb that stuff first. Vince does a clever thing here where he gives you the basic terms that you're going to use throughout the course of the game in 2 pages, and then goes right into getting started with collecting your models, starting with your necromancer. So steps to creating them: assign a stat. There's 3 stat blocks. Basically the idea behind those 3 stat blocks is, without getting too granular, what kind of evil bad guy is this? Are they a big tank? Are they a mystical sort of like slimy dude who might not be very like good at fighting, but he's good at casting magical spells? Or are they something in between? And these 3 stat blocks kind of like represent that. So you could be movement 5, offensive 3, defense 6. So like relatively easy to hit, kind of in the middle. Like it's 50-50, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then resist 4 for your magical stuff. And then your necromantic energy is going to be 13, or you could be like a tank and be movement 6, offensive 6, defense 7, really hard to hit. It's like wearing armor. Think like the difference between like Arcan the Black in like Warhammer points of like terms and someone like Manfred von Karstein. So you have like a fighter in like armor versus like a pure sort of like wizard. And their energy is only 9, which is funny because it's also their life bar. And then the other one, base stat 3, is movement 5, offensive 3, defensive 5, resist 4, necromantic energy 17. It's like a caster type. And then you can take 3 of the stats and increase them by 1. That's like your customization. Nice and simple. Real like quick build for your Necromancer themselves. But then you get to pick a legacy. Think of that as your class. You've got Horde Master, War Reaper, Monster Master, Controller, Spirit Caller, and Stitcher. Each of these 6 is going to give you some kind of boost and bonus, and more importantly, a theme, right? It's like a War Reaper. That's the Manfred. You know, he's got his like super like debuff ability. He can like mesmerize with Necromantic Touch. Ruinous Touch, sorry, you can reduce somebody's defense. For every success you do when you do this one, and you get to roll 8d10, you reduce their success by, or their defense by 1 for the rest of the turn. So like you can kind of like make someone easier to kill. And then you've got your special ability, Reaper of Flesh. Increase the offense and defense of your Necromancer by 1. Whenever your Necromancer destroys an enemy within 1, they gain an energy. So, and this is in addition to the normal energy that you gain for destroying something. So like you get all your life back every time you kill something. Dread Horde Master, for instance, he's going to have lots of like individual smaller models. You increase the maximum rating of undead you can bring by 4. So even if like your normal scenario says you can bring 12 rating worth of guys, this guy can bring 16. But you're limited to only rating 1 and rating 2 monsters. And all the monsters are given a rating between 1 and 4 based upon how big they are. So like a zombie and a skeleton's a 1. You know, a giant flesh abomination is like a 3, and like a dread knight's like 4. And then they can blow up their corpses with a corpse bomb. And the rest of these are kind of similar things. A controller can take over enemy undead, make them attack each other. It's kind of like a telepath sort of. The Monster Master, he can make like really cool big flesh abominations. And his special powers, he can like make them evolve and get better after each game, and then build them to perfection. They're slightly tougher than normal. The Spirit Caller does all the spirit stuff because every minion has a class too, like whether it's a Rattler, a Skeleton, a Shambler's a zombie, a Spirit is obviously a ghost. This one leans into the spirit stuff. And they can recruit only undead of the spirit type, but their movement of all of them are increased by 1. And then has a special Call the Other Side power where they can make more ghosts. They can pull ghosts out of the air, basically. And then the Stitcher's all about them zombies, loves the Shamblers, can do a thing where he teleports them around, and then has a general aura where they like get stitched back together when he fights with them. And you can see here the minion list. So if you have like, I can literally just play this game out of my Cursed City box set if I want to. So skeletons, skeleton archers, vampire spawns, zombies, ghouls, revenants. So those are all the ones. Ghouls, revenants, shadows, and specters are the 2s, along with wights. Ghasts are 3, and you just kind of like get bigger from there. Mummies, wraiths, and banshees are 3. They have special abilities. The mummy can like be slightly more durable. The banshee can scream and attack your resist instead of your defense. So they're all kind of good at fighting certain types of heroes. It's a bit of rock, paper, scissors stuff in the game design where like for instance, a cleric, like a priest type, will be lower offensive defense, but higher spirit defense. So you would want to attack them with something that's going to like wear down their physical defenses, whereas a knight might have a lower resist, right? So you can attack their spirit defense or their resist stat instead of their defense stat, and be easier to hit them with something like a wraith. And then giant guys like banshees, flesh golems, vampires, and death knights. We get the stats for all these guys. They'll often have special rules like a vampire spawn. If this model makes an attack and rolls at least 2 critical hits against a hero, a shambler, or feeder model, it can heal a durability. Its offense increases by 1 for the rest of the game because it goes into a blood frenzy. Ghosts, for instance, they have the ethereal special rule, so they're unimpeded by terrain. It has an aging vision. Whenever a critical failure on an attack roll is made against this model, they suffer 3 damage because you look at it by accident. And then absorb essence. Whenever damage from this model destroys an enemy, if a necromancer within 3 does not absorb it, then this model may absorb the essence. If they do, increase their offense of 1 by the remember of the game. So basically, if they go off and fight by themselves, and there's no necromancer nearby within 3 inches to absorb the souls of the things that die, they can do it and they get more powerful. And then things like the Flesh Gorm, the big guy, he's got like an offensive 7, defensive 8, a giant resist of 6, and a durability of 24. This is like a huge model. It's an unstoppable brute. When this model moves, it may ignore intervening models, but it may not finish its move on any other model. And an enraged monstrosity, if this model's durability is 12 or less, its offense goes to 10 because it hulks out. And then constructed, anytime this model is affected by a necromantic power that causes an effect other than damage, its resist increases by 2 because it's so big it's hard to control. And so those are the minions you would recruit each game. You'll have like your initial recruitment that you can recruit to, and then when you make the different game sizes, if you're playing like a one-off skirmish, you'll just agree upon a size and then recruit to it. Your necromantic path might affect what you do and don't take. And then you get your powers. You can pick 3 of these initially, and then you've got universal ones everybody has. So everybody has Dark Shield, Negative Bolt, and Restore Energy. Dark Shield is one where you can basically, once per turn, spend one of your durability to reduce all your damage to 0. So you kind of save it up for when you take like a really big hit. Then Negative Bolt, it's just like a black bolt of lightning that also gains energy back when you use it. And Restore Energy, this one lets you heal your minions, that model, sorry, heal your minions, kill your minions, and use them to power your spells. So if you need to absorb one of your guys, you pull back your necromantic energy by destroying one of your guys that's nearby. And then we got our powers list that we can pick from. So things like a Trophic Blast, it's like a debuff, so like it does damage, but also weakens things. Revelation or Rotting Curse, so like Revelation is, the Necromancer whispers in the darkness. All hidden models lose hidden, so I think it's like sneaking up on you. They can use the hidden special rule. They get shown up. Reanimate. When undead are destroyed, the Necromancer can expend some of their energy to bring it back, so it costs 6. The Necromancer selects a friendly model, rating 1 or 2 that was destroyed earlier in the game, and it gets placed back in play within 3, so basically like puts the body back together. And then you get it buffs too, like Fell Armor. It affects the Necromancer themselves. Until the end of the turn, Necromancer's defense is increased by 1. In addition, whenever an enemy model makes a melee attack against the Necromancer, they take 2 damage after it's resolved, because it's like got evil, I don't know, Necromancer spikes on it. And so these are our sort of like core differences when we build Necromancers, is picking these 3 things plus the universal ones. In story mode, you can learn more of these obviously as the game goes on. You also get a starting lair, and you got to be careful with your lair because it can be like tracked back to by the enemy heroes when you fight villages, and the heroes like figure out where you are. So for instance, a cave is out of the way. It's harder for bad guys to find. A hovel, however, is not, and it can get upgraded as well. Sewers you could be living in, they have like labyrinth special rules and stuff like that too if they get upgraded. So like whenever you have one, you upgrade like a cave to a dungeon, a hovel to a tower, a sewer to a labyrinth, and they become like more cool basically as time goes on. And then we're into the core gameplay mechanics. So there's 2 ways of playing Skirmish, and then also story mode. In Skirmish mode, you're just gonna pick your lists basically, and then randomly generate a table to play on. And the gameplay is you get 3 necromantic energy, so you always kind of like power back up in like Marvel versus Capcom or Street Fighter terms. Your power bar gets bigger the more moves you do. And then each player bids some to determine who goes first. The player who wins activates Necromancer and 4 rating worth of undead. So whenever you activate your Necromancer once, and then you have to activate 4 of your rating. And that means that like that could be 4 1 rating skeletons, or it could be a rating 2 ghoul and 2 rating 1 zombies, right? So you get to divide it up however much you want, or like a single abomination. It's an interesting mechanic because it means that you can lean into like out-activating models with weaker individuals, but you're never getting to go like all at once and have like too big of an activation advantage. Where if you're just doing a 1-to-1 back and forth activation, if one side has 12 models, one side has 8, 4 models get to just like dictate what they do at the end of the turn. Activation control can be a real problem in Skirmish games. This is a clever way of handling it. And in story activation steps, it goes the same way, except that 4 rating worth of heroes will activate for every player that activates, because you can play this cooperatively too. So if like two heroes not rating. 2 heroes activate every time you get to go as the Necromancer, and the Necromancer does like the Necromancer plus 4 rating, just like in the Skirmish game. But those heroes could have ratings of like up to 8 combined. You will do 2 heroes for every player in the game though, because if you play cooperative and there's more than 1 Necromancer playing, then like for every 1 player, 2 would go. So if you have 2 players in a co-op game, then 4 heroes would activate every time the players go back and forth. And then they have their own AIs for activation. Activation's pretty simple. You can do a move plus an action. For minions, that would be like an attack, a move, or one of their like specials. And for Necromancers, it's an attack, a move, or use a necromantic power. Minions can't activate more than once per turn, but Necromancers can. And then hero actions will always be determined by the hero's AI. Movement's pretty simple. It's a linear move. Climbing's double distance for going up and down. Jumping has special rules as well as flying, teleporting, and you can't end a move on something you can't end your base on. Combat, like I said earlier, is pretty simple. There's 2 kinds of combat, attacking and necromantic powers. They both target a different stat. Offensively, you can have some differences, like for instance, the Wraiths, when they make an attack, their offense targets resist as opposed to defense because they're screaming at you with like their evil wail. But the core successes thing is the same. In an offensive attack, it's going to cause damage. In a necromantic power, the power will usually dictate what the special effect is. So like sometimes like the Dark Bolt, I think is for every success you do D3 resist damage to something, plus whatever other powers that trigger. Melee range is 1 inch. And when you take damage, a model that's like their resilience goes to 0, they just get destroyed. If a Necromancer takes damage, they lose necromantic energy first. When they get to 0, they start to lose models. The models nearby take range as their like ability to like hold them together starts to crumble, and you'd be wiped out when you have no models remaining and you're at 0. So there's a neat kind of like cascade effect as like models start to crumble nearby the Necromancer when they get more damage. And the idea is the Necromancers are just these immortal evil spirits. They can't actually be destroyed by physical harm, but their ability to like manifest gets more damage the more they take damage from the heroes and stuff. And then some special rules for like cover your +1 defense if you're shooting through it with a ranged attack. You can be hidden and ethereal as like some of your traits and special abilities. Skirmish play. In skirmish play, a player loses when they're removed from play if they have 0 necromantic minions remaining and they go to 0 energy, so you die. Same with the other way. In a skirmish mission, you generate your terrain, so it's a big like random terrain generator for where you're playing, like a wasteland, a battlefield, a dark forest, and then you generate the terrain that's gonna sit on there. You get secondary objectives, which is your thing that you're gonna win on apart from killing, so like looking for treasure, artifacts, making a dark offering. There's 9, and then there's a 10th. If you roll a d10, players can choose. You get special occurrences like the earth blows up or a Nightwalker appears, the Dark Crow calls, and then your deployment is going to be based upon this dice roll, but it's basically a 6-inch square inside one of the 11 by 15 table quarters. And then story play, you select a scenario, and there's tons of narrative scenarios. If you play them in order, you end up with Kill the King as scenario 10 and scenario 11 as Dark Apotheosis. So it's fun to do them in order because you get like an 11-step narrative if you do it that way. And then terrain is just a single D6 table to see what's gonna go. Every mission is gonna give you different heroes, and they activate based upon their class. So for instance, a ranger would activate first, a villager would activate last, and the idea is that you're not picking based on advantage, you're just going in this order, and then you go based on proximity to one of your bad guys, or one of your minions, sorry, or you. Stats for everybody, they've all got special sort of like things they can do. Roll a d10 whenever someone activates. It'll take whatever action's rolled. If it's impossible, the priest will default to shielded stance. So basically you get like number 1 is usually the default action, and then they start to do special things. So what I like is that the AI for the monsters, well, the heroes basically in this game, is going to be procedurally generated. So it's not going to be scripted, and it's less easier to game the system where you know what they're going to do every round. It makes it a little more unpredictable. It makes every game a little bit different. And so yeah, I got priests, rangers, rogues, warriors, villagers, and wizards, and warriors. You're gonna know what they do based on the scenario. So like the assault the village scenario, I need D3 +1 rating 2 warriors, so some town guards, and then 3 villagers per player. And that's your basic deployment. And as you go through, it can increase. So like for instance, conducting a ritual, a priest and a wizard try and stop you with 2 D3 warriors. So like an actual like adventuring party shows up. Robbing a graveyard, you're gonna have D3 +1 warriors, a wizard and a rogue. And that means that your model collection, you start with like some men-at-arms types, and then you increase to the various other things you need to have when you get to like fighting a lord's castle. There can be lots of like crazy stuff. When you go to kill the king, there's all kinds of like crazy stuff that's here. So when you kill the king, there's like a paladin, a ranger, a wizard, a priest, D3 warriors, and a rogue. That's right, some Dark Apotheosis. Killing the king is a king's champion, is a special character. So D3 paladins, a ranger, a priest, and a villager, the attendant. And it's per player, so if you have 2 players, you double all that stuff. Some special rules for terrain, some optional rules for like forests and stuff like that, like things like random events when you go near those pieces of terrain. And then your post game, because it does have a nice campaign system. Your minions might fall apart, so you roll for damaging them every game because like they're just made from spare body parts. Then you retire them if you don't want to keep them, if they've gotten too damaged, raise new undead, gain some experience, spend your experience, and then a lair expansion and assault. A lair assault can happen if someone comes after you. If they track you back home. There's a neat little gimmick here. If you kill a hero over the course of a game, roll a die on a 9+, you can raise that hero as a minion and have it join your army. It keeps its same rating and all of its same stats, except it doesn't use the AI anymore. It just does what you want it to do. You get to pick. No roll is needed. And then yeah, for the Necromancer, you get your secondary objectives and stuff like that, can give you bonus points. All heroes destroyed by the end of turn 3, get +1. And spending your experience, it's various costs for various things. For 3, you can get new power. You can improve a stat for 4. But like to buy a special ability, like Aura of Weakness, costs 7. These are all skills on top of your necromantic powers. And there's tons of them. Extra meat, Your focus on Shamblers has made them difficult to destroy, so for 4 experience, they can all get +1 durability. Speed of the Fell wins for 10 experience. Once per turn when you activate your Necromancer can make a move for free, so like you turn into bats or whatever. And then you can expand your lair with like alchemy labs, crypts, crystal caverns, libraries. And then finally, you can have your lair get assaulted. To determine if lair is assaulted, roll a d10 and add the number of story missions you've completed since your lair was last assaulted. You get a -1, of course, for your cave because you're out of the way. If you complete 3, you get +3. If the total is 11+, the heroes assault your lair. When they assault your lair, subtract your lair's defense score from the difficulty of the highest difficulty story play mission you've completed. If it's positive, that's the amount of necromantic minions of equal rating that's destroyed. So like they attack you and your guys get killed because they have to defend the place against like the attack. And a nice little rule summary, and that's it. I like that this was clever because there were some dead pages. Because when you do this stuff through DriveThruRPG or one of these like self-publishing sites, you have to have like a specific page count usually for these perfect bound books. Clever to put the notes sheets in here because people might just want to write in the book. And if you ever see Adam and Vince at a convention, bring your copy and have them sign it back here, which is really smart too. So there it is, some lovely layout, some great new art too. I love the art by Martin McCoy and Sam Lenz. Martin did all this stuff. Sam did the more like pen and inky drawings. I like the style of Martin stuff. And then Sam did, I think, the more, where's one of Sam's? He did all the like inscripted stuff. So like the stuff that's like in the liner notes, like this little guy. That's the Sam Lenz stuff. But if you want to know there's handy page numbers, that's Sam as well. That's Sam. So like the little sort of like almost fighting fantasy stuff in the liners where like you've got these like little kind of call-outs and stuff is all by Sam. So one wonderful, sorry, and Martin did the cover too. Wonderful layout on this by Adam and great writing from Vince. So if you're looking for a solo co-op game, this would be a great club game. If you have like an undead army, you basically can play it already. Or you play D&D and just happen to have some undead miniatures. This is gonna be a real easy one for me to do a Let's Play on, so expect that in the next couple weeks. Big thanks for Adam bringing this along. If you want to check it out, you can check it out on DriveThruRPG just by clicking the link in the video description below. So we'll be back today with more of GMG reviews you can check out. I'm Ash. Hope we're gonna